Hi everybody, it's Kathy from Huckleberry Herbs and Art. Arteza reached out to me and asked if I would review a few of their products. And to get all the legal stuff out of the way, if you purchase from the link below, I will receive a stipend essentially for your purchase. Having said that, they're also offering customers a 10% discount with that link. So I'm going to get started with opening this up and testing these out and giving an honest review of what I think of these items. The first thing that they sent me was the 48 Real Brush Pens, and you can see the plastic container that they come in, and they sent me a set of these 6-pack of water brushes. Alright, so let me get these packages open and start to take a closer look. Inside the plastic box there were 4 trays of the brush pens, and they were not organized in any particular color family manner, but you can see here that you can easily see the color on the end of the pen, and you can see the color that you're working with or grabbing for through the clear plastic covers. I liked the number of colors and shades. I was glad to see that there was groupings of pinks and all the families were represented, and some of these neutral tones with these grays and things as well. So I was glad to see that. I was excited about the fact that I was going to have quite a few colors to play around with and to experiment with. The water brushes themselves, there are 6 of them, and I am going to open up first the largest pointed tip, and I couldn't help myself. I wanted to go over and push that little push button there and see what kind of flexibility there was in the spot where you squeeze the water out and how much resistance there was, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that it was not that difficult to press at all. It was quite easy to press. This is the smallest flat brush and the largest flat brush. I haven't used flat brushes before, so that'll be fun. This is a medium-sized one. I do suggest that you be careful when you put them back in. You can see the little hairs there are getting a little split, so take your time putting the covers on. And I am going to show the smallest tip, and I think this will come in very handy when you're working with very fine points of stamp coloring and things like that. So it'll be interesting to try the different sizes, and this one is the medium-sized one. The end of that tip doesn't look quite as pointed as one might expect, but all in all, I'm excited about trying them, and they certainly seem like they're going to be flexible and easy to use. So I'm ready. I want to get into these. Now, the brush pens themselves do not have names for the colors, which I have heard a lot of people be displeased with, and certainly it could make it more difficult to identify what you want to work with. But for myself personally, I always just go anyway, and it's going to be important to open the pen up and test it out when I'm starting a new project. Right here, I was just making sure that the cover was easy to get off, because with my hands, especially of late, it's very important that I can access the material. So I was testing to see how hard it is, and the caps were not that difficult to get off. I'm not going to show you all of the swatching that I did, but I am going to swatch out all of the colors and show you the chart when it's finished. My first reaction, and this is on Spectrum Noir paint paper that was especially for alcohol pens, and it soaks up, because these are water based, it soaks up the ink and the paint pretty easily. So it's not that they aren't working well on the paper. They're working well, and they're very juicy. I like them, but I do think that I'm not doing them the full service in that on this particular kind of paper, it is not watercolor paper, and it is being soaked up pretty quickly by the paper. So I'm going to try to lay these out in a rainbow form, and I'm having to make my own decisions according to the color of the tip of the pen, and just grab what I think should go next in order, and you'll see in the end I was not perfect at that, but I did the best I could. And I think those two on the far right and some of the other tones mixed in might make some decent skin tones for people, so I do think that there are some skin colors in here. I was pleased to see the violets and the pinks represented. Maybe we could use a little bit more yellow, but there seems to be orange base and pinks, plenty of greens, a lot of greens in the package, and the blues themselves, there was a good grouping of blues. I had a little trouble deciding when to move over to the blue category. And then there's nice purples and lavenders. There's a fairly decent grouping of some gray tones and some brown tones, and there's a black brush pen in here as well. So all in all, I would say it's a pretty good grouping of color. There might be an abundance of the green, but to tell you the truth, I think that's one of the colors that when I'm working with leaves and nature type things, I'm always looking for more versions of green, and it'll be nice to see how these blend and see if I can make some leaf backgrounds and things like that in some of my projects. Now, the next thing I wanted to try, and please forgive me, I am not a professional letterer, but I did want to see what it was like to letter with these. And I am probably doing them a disservice again in that I am not an expert. I do not practice my lettering every day, but I did not have too much difficulty getting some thin lines and thick lines. Of course, you can see I went back and thickened one of the lines. I just wanted to see what kind of writing it would do because brush lettering is very popular these days, and I like to do brush lettering myself. And I do think there's a learning curve with every new medium that you try. And if I had some time to practice, I think I could improve. But they did pretty good right out of the box for me. And I wanted to see as well what kind of thin to thick lines I could make and just draw lines across and see what kind of pressure it takes before it starts to do what it's doing there, which is becoming a bit sketchy towards the end. I'm happy with that. The thin line versus the thick line, very nice. And I think I can see myself using them for a lot of projects that I might need to do some line work with. I also wanted to see what they acted like on watercolor paper. So I have some inexpensive watercolor paper here, and I'm just using them as well as the water brush to see what I can do to blend them out and to lighten them. And I was enjoying this. Like I said, they're very juicy and they're moving along with the water quite nicely. I'm trying out, different sized water brushes and different colors just to have a little fun with them and to let you see what they do when they are mixed with water, which they should be because they're watercolor. Now, this is probably really extending the use of the pens a little bit too far, but why not? Why not just give it a shot and see if I just took a piece of watercolor paper and decided I want to make a scene, what would happen? And so what you're seeing me do right here is just sketching out some spots and putting some shadowing into these little mountains that I created. Pretty much just scribbling, just not really thinking about it, nothing planned, just lay it out and see what happens and what's going to happen when I blend them with water. So I'm going to be going back and forth between the brushes in the different tones and then coming back with the water brush and seeing how they blend together. And considering that I don't necessarily think that these kind of brush pens were made to be artist grade portrait or landscape mediums, I do think that they're handling it pretty well. And you can see there how I laid down the color. I just scribbled it out and came back with the water. I'm using one of the light gray tones to see if I can put some distance and layering into the little landscape that I've created here by putting some lighter colored trees in the far background. And then I'm coming forward with some of the darker color pens and trying to create some layers to the picture. And all in all, I kind of had fun doing this. I really enjoyed the way that they moved with the water, and I enjoyed the choices of colors that I could just grab. And it was actually kind of pleasant to not have to sit and mix different colors and try to create what I wanted and work with different sized brushes. I was already starting to get a feel of the tips that these had. I do have to mention that I think that 2 or 3 of them had a few very loose hairs coming out of the brush. Not all of them, just 2 or 3 of them. And that would present a problem if you were doing some very intricate fine work. But out of 48 of them, with the price point that they have, I enjoyed them. I could see myself using these on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, I do believe that you will see me using these. And here I'm just touching up a few spots and seeing if places that were already dried up are going to move like regular watercolor would. And I'm thinking not too bad for something that was really not meant to be a full art portrait or landscape. I'm just throwing a few little birds in here to make my little sample slightly more interesting, but I was pleased with this. I mean, it probably could use some work, and I'm no great artist, but I enjoyed working with the pens and thought I came up with something pretty cool in a couple of minutes. I'm using one of my new Heartfelt P stamps here and the Tim Holtz stamp press machine there, and I'm just going to print out one of these peonies. I'm using Stays On ink because I don't want the ink that I stamp with to interfere at all with the pen brush performance. I don't want it to, make them look bad because I'm using some kind of ink that might react to the water. And the Stays On has the right name. It stays on. It's going to stay on my rubber stamp too. Now this is on the Spectrum Noir paper again. So I am doing one of the flowers with just regular marker paper, not meant for watercolor based type things. And I just want to see how it reacts, because a lot of times that's what we want to do is stamp out something and just use regular cardstock. And I'm curious to what I can do with that. But I'm coming back here and I'm doing another version of the stamp on some watercolor paper, so I can look at the difference between the ways the two papers absorbed and what kind of reactions I had as far as changing color and stuff like that. So I'm going to get these stamped out and start using 2 of the pens. I know normally that you would use 3 different colors, but I'm just going to stick with 2 and give a shot at coloring these in. So I'm going pink, and I'm laying down the lightest color first. Now, when I first started doing this, and again, this is on the Spectrum Noir paper, my intent was to use the water brush as well and bring those back in and blend a little bit. But again, this is not watercolor paper, so I really found that the paper itself was not getting that wet, and that I could do a better job just letting the pens mix and blend themselves. So I stopped doing that and just went back and forth between the two. And I have to tell you, I was enjoying it. I was having fun. I can see myself using these pens with my stamping. I was able to get into some of the very small places. They really actually blended very well. I was pleased with it. I liked the colors. I liked the feel in my hand. And although I have no idea what the color fastness is or professional archival quality of these are, for making some cards and enjoying the coloring experience, and again, the price point, I think they're good. I had fun with them. And this is the watercolor paper, and it definitely went on much easier with the watercolor paper, and it blended better with the watercolor paper. It felt lovely to work with them, and I liked them. I enjoyed this. So in a moment when I finish this up, and you can get a little shot at what it looks like when the colors blend, just going back and forth between the two. As long as it was moist, it moved quite easily and created some lovely tones. I'll show you the difference between the final 2, the Spectrum Noir paper versus the watercolor paper. So are they perfect? Nope, not perfect. But they are decent for the price point, and they are fun to work with, and the colors are eclectic and numerous, and I really actually enjoyed the way that they worked, especially on the watercolor paper, and I definitely will be using these pens. These are fun, and I like all the choices that I have, and I like the way that they worked on, with the things that I would want to do. And I think I really kind of pushed them past what they were expected to be used for by trying to do that landscape. These are more the typical projects that I would do. So yeah, it came out pretty good. I'm pleased with it. I enjoyed working with these brush pens. And there's the watercolor. I want to thank Arteza for giving me the opportunity to use their products and to share them with my subscribers. Don't forget, if you would like the products, you're not going to pay more, but I will receive a little stipend, and you'll get 10% off by using the link down below. Well, everybody, I had fun, and I hope you enjoyed watching me go through this little experiment here, and I look forward to seeing you again. Till next time, this is Kathy from Huckleberry Herbs and Art. God bless.
To the